On opposite sides of this, Austin, what's the right approach here as the government tries to hammer out who gets help in this next relief bill?
Well, all of that depends on how long is this crisis going to last. Temporary shutdowns and temporary problems are like liquidity crises in the Fed speak. And liquidity crises you can solve with loans, and solvency crises you can really only solve with bankruptcy. And so that's the whole debate here is, do you think that this thing is going away, or do you think that this marks a permanent structural change in the economy? I think that if you go ahead and let millions of businesses go under all at the same time right now, when the unemployment rate is between 11 and 15%, depending how you measure it, I think you threaten to just throw us back into the worst recession that we've ever lived through.
Jimmy?
Yeah, listen, I think we are still today in the let's push money out the door phase of this crisis and this recovery. But that cannot last forever. I'm not talking about tomorrow, maybe not even the day after tomorrow, but I think this is a legitimate concern, sort of post-crisis, post-vaccine. We already have the zombie issue leading into this, and I'm extremely concerned that on the other side, we are going to have a low productivity economy. It's already could be better, a low productivity economy, too many companies that shouldn't be in business, too much debt, too much capital, too much talent tied up in companies which are never going to be what they could be. And I don't think it's too early to at least begin to think what that post-vaccine, post-virus economy should look like.
Austin, what about if we take, for an example, the airlines who have already received some government assistance, significant government assistance? They kept all their staff for a period of time. Looks like they'll now make significant layoffs, and they may need further government bailouts. At what point do you draw a line and say, we just have to stop doing this? I'm not saying let all these people lose their jobs, but you could wipe out equity holders and just take this into government ownership for a period of time and start selling stakes back in due course when we're on the other side.
Yeah, I don't know. I was following you until that last part, that the government's going to nationalize these firms. I don't think I agree with that at all. I would have drawn the line with the airlines. I think it's a good example. I don't think they should have done it that way. I don't think they should have picked 2 or 3 specific industries. If you're going to save the corporate sector, design the program to be broad-based with general rules that say anyone can qualify as long as they satisfy the following conditions and follow these behaviors. I think we should draw a line and stop doing airlines are special, so we should give them special money. The thing that I would just like to remind everybody, mostly I agree with Jimmy's argument, which is if we're going to get a vaccine and come out on the back end of this, let's not create zombies. My point is there are a bunch of companies that we're now lumping in as zombies that are only zombies because of the ineptitude of the federal response to this crisis. If you look in Europe and you look in Asia at the other rich countries of the world, there still is no vaccine, but they have made this a temporary shock. So they had even more support of their companies, but it's proving to be okay so far because these are short-lived hits to demand because they got control of the spread of the virus. In the U.S., we encourage people to go back out and liberate themselves. Now we're having a resurgent virus that's making the shock not be temporary, which is creating the zombies. And so what we should first do is get control of that virus. And I think millions more companies can survive if we do that.
Jimmy, everyone always recoils at the idea of the government having anything more than a tiny batch of warrants to get some exposure to the upside if they help a company out. But when you consider the airlines, the government money's gone in, and there's going to be layoffs. Why not instead wipe out equity holders, which has much less of a negative impact on the economy, and keep everyone in their jobs, which would take some level of government ownership. But it doesn't have to be capitalism versus communism. It's temporary.
We didn't say communism. Listen, I don't know as of yet what this economy is going to look like. I don't know what it's going to look like for air travel long term. I'm not sure what it's going to look for movie theaters. I tend to be very skeptical on this changes absolutely everything, and we're not going to fly, and we're not going to go to restaurants and baseball games. Everybody's going to flee the cities. I am concerned, though, that on the other side, there's going to be a great temptation, especially something like airlines, which are really viewed as, in a lot of other countries, almost like national champions. There's going to be a huge temptation, whether it's President Biden or President Trump, to start identifying certain companies, and maybe companies that give a lot of money to a certain campaign, as really sort of, these are too important to fail, too patriotic to fail. These are our national champion companies. And however we want to bail them out, they're going to get bailed out, and the money will keep flowing. And again, I think I'm concerned about the state of this economy. It was a slow growth economy before. I don't want it to be a slow growth economy after.
Here's the issue, Austin. At the first, when we were doing this last time around with the, $4 trillion, it was an emergency. Stocks were plummeting. The nation was locked down, and the only thing you heard on both sides of the aisle were, this is not business's fault. They are being told they have to shut down. We're in the middle of this, once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and we have to keep the workers afloat to make it to the other side. The problem is now we're not on the other side, and we're in this sort of in-between area where economies are open, but the virus is still raging, and people aren't going to work because they're afraid, perhaps. And so I think the question, Austin, is how much of a bridge loan do we give to these businesses when economies are still open? And if you're getting into that, how do you even choose? Because so many different industries are affected.
Yeah, look, you raised at least two, maybe three or four important issues in that question. I think if you're going to mismanage the control of the spread of the virus, just on the health side, then it's like the old Godfather line. This is the business you've chosen. You're in the business of $1 trillion of sustaining relief payments if you're not going to control the spread of the virus. That's just a simple fact. And that's what I mean by the other rich countries of the world have been able to control the spread of the virus, and therefore the bridge that they've had to extend to their companies has been much more limited. Now, I am sympathetic with the view that is like, whoa, wait a second. Should the equity holders of these companies be bailed out when the unemployed workers are going to have their benefits cut off? I don't know if that makes perfect sense. I think it's critical that you design policies. If you're going to be in the business of rescue and relief and basically providing discount window-like emergency lender of last resort to companies outside the financial sector, I think it's important that you kind of remember the lessons of the Fed and all the things we've learned about central banks over the last several centuries at discount window lending. And the last thing you want to do is have individuals in the government deciding this company's worth it and this company's not worth it. That would be a big mistake. I think you really desperately need a general plan so everybody understands what qualifies you.